course, before doing any work on a firearm, you do want to make sure that it is in fact empty with no ammunition in it. With the Walther PPK, there is no manual slide lockback feature. So to lock the slide back, you have to have a magazine, an empty magazine in it, and it will lock back at that point. In this case, the magazine is empty. So we'll go ahead and put that back in. Then we can pull the slide back, and that will then lock the slide to the rear. We can then visually inspect and look to make sure that the firearm is in fact empty and safe. The only way to release the slide would be to remove the magazine, and then when you pull the slide back, it will then unlock and go forward. So let's go over the basic controls of the firearm. We have the magazine release, which is right there. You simply push in on that and that releases the magazine. You have the trigger. The trigger on the Walther PPK is a double action, single action trigger. In this particular mode, it is set up for double action. What that means is when you pull the trigger back, it will cock the hammer, and then at the end of its cocking cycle, it will release the hammer to allow firing. Like so. It's a fairly stiff trigger, so I'll try to do this as slow as I can. As you pull the trigger back, and then it releases and fires. On the recoil, the slide would come back, ejecting the round, and then it would lock the hammer back, ready to fire the next round. The trigger would go to the single action mode, which requires just a light trigger pull to fire the weapon. It does have a manual safety. The red dot means it is ready to fire. To put it on safe, you would simply push that down, and that would lock it from being able to function all the way. Pulling the trigger back will pull the hammer back somewhat, but it doesn't go back far enough to cock the firearm, and of course it won't release it. This also functions as a decocking lever, so if the firearm were in fact, the hammer was pulled back and it was cocked ready to fire, when you pull the safety down, it will put the firearm on safe and then release the hammer, releasing spring tension. If you notice the trigger didn't move, that's normal operation for it. When you put it back on fire, it will then release the trigger. Then you could use the double action to either cock the hammer back to fire it, or you could manually cock the hammer back.